Chapter 3. Once, the ancients flourished here on the continent of Helcha, passing their days in peace and abundance. Blessed by Dia, the god that had been revered on Helcha since ancient times, they constructed an unimaginably high-level society using advanced technology and knowledge. They named it Diania, after their deity. But one night, they suddenly vanished from the continent, meeting an abrupt end. With the ancients gone, the monster population soared, completely transforming the peaceful and bountiful Diania into a dangerous region that none dared enter. 200 years ago, a dauntless band of individuals dared to set foot on the continent, and they began its conquest. Yes, they fought with monsters, entered dungeons, and once again built human villages. Those were the adventurers. But come on, how can they call themselves adventurers? They're just a bunch of riffraff who can't even defeat a single boss. In the east of Helcha, deep inside the Belfla forest, there was an open hole that led to some subterranean ruins, the Belfla underground ruins. It was an A-class dungeon, which the guild recommended be explored in a party of 4, but Alina was strolling around its deepest level all alone, complaining to herself all the while. They have no idea how much suffering this overtime has caused me. Dungeons created by the ancients generated ether, which heightened magical power. Monsters gathered in search of ether, causing these valuable sources of knowledge from the ancients to wind up as dens for dangerous creatures. Overtime sucks so bad. Alina was headed for the deepest area of that floor. She occasionally peeked out down a side route to see a candelabra that was still glowing after 200 years, or a collapsed decoration that contained a mysteriously glowing rock. These were all valuable relics made from the ancients' advanced technology. If she took them home, she could exchange them for a ton of cash. But instead, she strode briskly onward, not even sparing a glance at the pile of treasures. Overtime sucks so bad. She was not dressed in her usual receptionist outfit. Instead, she wore a cloak with a large hood that completely covered her face. Additionally, she had nothing in the way of weapons or tools to protect herself. If another adventurer had seen her, they would have panicked and stopped her. But there was no sign of anyone but Alina here. In the depths of the strata, where the ether was thickest, otherwise known as the boss room, sat the boss's throne. The monsters would compete for this territory until one beat out its weaker competitors, then the victor would reign as the boss, and the other monsters wouldn't come near. On a similar note, adventurers who lacked confidence in their abilities would also steer clear of the boss room. Over time, suddenly, Alina came to a halt. A large door had appeared before her. The thick aura of ether oozed out from behind it. The moment she opened it, she was hit by a wave of suffocatingly hot air. Past the entrance was a broad, circular open area. Once, there must have been grand ceremonies held here. But now the place was inhabited by a great fire dragon, roaring and thrashing around. It was the floor boss of the deepest strata, the Hellflame dragon. Crap, it's strong. Can we even get near this thing? Its scales repel ice magic, too. A single party was struggling against the rampaging fire dragon. Their armor was engraved with matching crests of 2 swords crossed. They were members of Silver Sword. Among them was Gans the Raging Blade, who had taken on this quest. "My battle axe isn't working." Gans now showed none of the spirit he'd had when he'd taken on the quest. He was looking up at the floor boss, dazed. The weapon he was so proud of, the relic armor, was greatly damaged, and there was not a single wound on the scales of the raging fire dragon to show for it. "Don't give up, Gans! Pull yourself together!" The tank of the party, a young man, aggressively encouraged him while raising his giant shield to protect him. Despite his encouragement, the situation seemed grim for them, and a scowl formed on the tank's face as he looked at the Hellflame dragon. "It's so strong. Even relic armor won't work. This thing must have eaten a relic." Monsters could grow in power by absorbing more ether of increasing density, but very rarely, one would ingest a relic by accident. The intense power of the relic would typically overwhelm the creature who ingested it, but every now and then, a monster would resist it, gaining a toughened body and enhanced magical power. This meant they could get much stronger by absorbing relics than from ether alone. Even knowing that, the dragon's power had come as such a shock to Gans that he lost not only his will to fight, but his confidence as well. It's no use, I can't, he groaned. It seemed like their frontline attacker, indispensable for defeating a boss, was beyond recovery. Seeing that, the tank hesitated for an instant before he quickly made a tough call. This isn't looking good. Let's withdraw for now. Wait, who are you? Cutting past the elite party as they made to withdraw, Alina headed straight for the Hellflame dragon. The tank blanched when he laid eyes on her. Hey, what are you doing? Without any kind of armor, you'll get burnt to a skill activate, dia break, Alina muttered, cutting off his attempt at restraint. Suddenly, a white magical sigil formed beneath her feet as she headed to the fire dragon, and a mysterious white light enveloped her cloak. She thrust her palm out and spread her fingers, and a giant warhammer appeared out of thin air. A skill? Hey, wait, what's with that skill? I've never seen anyone create a weapon. With the voices of the shocked elites at her back, Alina took hold of the warhammer and went into a combat stance. It was a massive weapon as tall as Alina herself. Fine silverwork that could only be produced with advanced technology decorated the hammer of the weapon, and white light ran across its surface. Opposite the massive hammer was a sharp, pointed pickaxe, making the weapon even more lethal. You clearly couldn't find it on the open market. So it's you damn miserable dragon. Alina approached the Hellflame dragon, grumbling to herself. You'd think the warhammer would take quite a lot of strength to lift, but she swung it up with ease, slinging it over her shoulder. The weapon was completely unsuited to someone as small as her. The Hellflame dragon must have noticed her murderous aura as it turned toward her. Its gaping maw, filled with sharp fangs, was capable of swallowing Alina whole. Scorching hot flames licked at the edges of its mouth, and its roar alone could have bowled a man over. But Alina didn't so much as flinch before her massive foe. Grah! Howling powerfully enough to make the ceremonial arena tremble, the Hellflame dragon opened its mouth wide. It was preparing a breath attack that would burn everything to a crisp hellflame. Hey! You gotta dodge that! Do you have a death wish? This is all 'cause you won't go down! Her eyes glinting, Alina looked up for the first time. That's why my overtime hell never ends! The fire dragon unleashed its breath. As the silver sword party scattered in a panic, Alina bounded toward the creature instead. She kicked off hard enough to crack the stone floor of the ceremonial arena. Her inhuman leg strength rocketed her slight frame nearly to the ceiling, allowing her to avoid the raging blast of flames. And then she swung her giant warhammer overhead. Dia! Giving a yell filled with intense resentment toward the monster that had caused her endless overtime, Alina smashed her weapon into the Hellflame dragon's face. A dull, sickening bah-whack resounded, making the whole arena shudder. The tremendous blow shattered scales that had repelled even swords and sent the massive frame of the fire dragon flying. The monster slammed into the wall, where it made a large dent before sliding down to the floor and spasming there for a while. In the now hushed arena, 3 dumbfounded voices muttered, "Ha!" Having been unable to get in a single effective hit on the Hellflame dragon this whole time, the party now stood with their mouths hanging open, speechless at the unbelievable sight. It hadn't been just any party fighting the Hellflame dragon. These were members of the Silver Sword, an elite group made up of the fiercest fighters. There was no way that some puny little no-name adventurer would be able to send this boss flying in one hit when a group of their power had failed to put up a fight against it. But Alina ignored everyone standing there frozen in shock, approaching the Hellflame dragon to mercilessly bring down her warhammer on the spasming monster once again. "It's because of you that my overtime won't end!" A cry of anger rose from her mouth, hidden by her hood. Like a toy, the giant fire dragon bounced right and left with each stomach-churning smack. "I'm sick of overtime!" She brought the warhammer down again, breaking off one of the hell flame dragon's horns. No, based on how the horn barely held its original shape, it would be more accurate to say she had pulverized it. "I want to go home on time already!" "You!" Battering her helpless foe, Alina crouched low like she was going to end it, winding up to swing the warhammer overhead. The light of her skill shone particularly bright from her weapon. Piece of crap! Her finishing blow punched through the boss's stomach. The hellflame dragon's head flung backward as it let out an agonized, dying cry. Eventually, its head slumped listlessly, the light fading from its eyes before it turned to fine dust with a flash and dispersed into the air. Silence. Everyone there was dumbstruck. Suddenly, a heavy clunking sound broke the hush of the ceremonial arena. A red crystal was lying where the hellflame dragon had disappeared. That red orb, containing a special magical sigil in the shape of a sun, was the relic the creature had mistakenly ingested. The item was valuable, but nobody cared about it. All eyes were focused on the small adventurer whose face was hidden by a hood. Having witnessed an almost inhuman feat of strength, they were left wondering just what they had been struggling so much for, and all they could do was stand there. Jade Scrade, the tank of silver sword, continued to hold his favorite relic Arma, his great shield, at the ready, as he stared in a daze at the spectacle before him. The small-statured adventurer, keeping their face hidden by a cloak, was neither taking pride in the incredible feat of having beaten down the hellflame dragon without a contest, nor showing interest in the relic lying there. They just sniffed like they were unsatisfied and waved an arm. The warhammer Jade had never seen before, the one that had appeared from thin air, disappeared without a sound. He couldn't comprehend anything that had just happened. "You've got to be kidding me," he finally wrung out. Since Jade was a tank, he was always on the front lines of dungeon dives. He not only took the enemy's attacks on himself to protect his allies, but also acted as their leader, giving them orders in combat. He had fought with many adept fighters, and he thought he had a better idea of their strength than anyone. But he'd never seen the kind of incredible power this adventurer had exhibited before. The executioner," Gans muttered in the silence. "Executioner? You don't know? There's an urban legend about a mysterious adventurer who suddenly appears in difficult dungeons where progress stalls. They solo the boss and complete the dungeon by force." Solo the boss? Adventurers normally work together in a party of 4 to fight monsters. The tank specialized in defense and drew enemy attention. The healer cured the party's wounds. The frontline attacker served as the main offensive force and used close-range weapons. And the long-range attacker used magic to cut through swaths of enemies and provide offensive support. This was the most efficient team structure, the sweet spot between too many and too few people. It had taken a whole century of trial and error, of winning countless battles in cramped dungeons, to develop. And that wasn't even getting into fighting a floor boss, the highest-ranked monster within the strata. You needed a healer and a tank for that. It was beyond reckless to try defeating it alone. But Jade had seen just that a moment ago. A single frontline attacker with a warhammer had faced a boss head-on and crushed it without any assistance. Jade turned his gaze to the executioner once more, but the unknown adventurer paid no mind to the elite's confusion. Instead, they gazed at the dust of the hellflame dragon as it wafted away, muttering, "Now I should be able to leave on time tomorrow." Then they spun around and left, passing Jade and heading straight for the door to the ceremonial arena. As they passed by, their cape billowed up and brushed him. Jade's eyesight was above average, so he happened to catch a glimpse of the executioner's face under their hood. It was neither the visage of a battle-hardened man nor a reaper-like executioner. Just the face of girl wearing a tired expression.